Have you ever had an experience that changed your whole way of thinking, that changed your perspective on everything? Stick around and I'm going to tell you about the main event that happened to me that turned me into a paranormal investigator. Hi, it's Mike with Undiscovered Origins. Today, I want to tell you about the main story that happened to me that turned me into a paranormal investigator. Now, in the previous video, I kind of talked to you about a couple of events that happened to me that kind of got me changing my thinking on things and kind of had me looking a little more into some issues with paranormal. Up until that point, I hadn't been really involved a whole lot of anything paranormal. And this was early 2008, and I kind of talked about it in the first video a little bit. But my son, the time he was my youngest son, he was my third child, and when he was growing up, he kind of always had these experiences that happened in his bedroom. You know, he would sit up in the corner and talk to Mau Mau, as he called it, and this kind of went on for a while and everything, and it was not shortly after that I had the experience with the dimes in the bathroom. Well, this was about the time that we had just had our fourth son is when the dimes happened. He was real young, and we needed to kind of move bedrooms. We have a 4-bedroom house and 2 older kids, 2 younger kids. So we took and we moved the nursery into one of the bigger rooms and put the 2 young ones in there together. And then we moved my oldest son into the room, which is, again, this room here that's behind me. And he started having, this is right after the dimes, he started having experiences where he would come out just scared to death. He was probably around 10 years old, and he would come out scared to death. He would hear noises, would see things out of his corner of his eye. And again, we thought, well, he's exposed to too much content on TV. So we started limiting what he could watch at what times he could watch it, that sort of stuff. But I didn't think anything about it. I didn't correlate the two until a little later on. Now, most of the experiences that we've had in this house were either in this bedroom, the dining room kitchen area, kind of into the edge of the living room. And then we had the couple of experiences in the bathroom. I've remodeled that bathroom twice since we've been in the house. And both times we've had occurrences in there is when it was freshly remodeled. So not nothing else really going on, mainly just kind of through this area. Well, as time went on, I'll kind of step forward a little bit. A little later on, we had my third son, which is the one that would talk to Mau Mau in the bedroom. That kind of went away. He didn't really talk about it, and we thought, well, he was just growing out of the imaginary friend phase. And I remember one day it had just gotten dark, and he was out back playing. We have a big tree house and everything back there, and he was kind of in the back corner. He was still little now. I'm talking toddler age. And I was out there on my phone, and all of a sudden he comes running at me scared. He's crying and he's screaming, Mau Mau. And that was kind of those episodes happened a couple years apart, but it's just kind of odd looking back on it now that he had kind of had an imaginary friend as a very little guy. And then a couple years later, he had that experience that happened with the same name. But the kind of events like that happened, we would hear right after the experience with the dimes, and we moved Hunter into this room back here. We would hear footsteps throughout the house. Now, we live in an old house. It was built in 55. So my upbringing is my career upbringing is in construction techniques and construction methods, damage appraisals, that sort of stuff. So I think settling of the house, it's old, the wind's blowing, it's making things shift around. So didn't really still kind of put 2 and 2 together. But we did hear voices on everybody, I believe, in the house has heard a woman's voice at times. And I know one of the stories that was kind of around this time frame, I would go to work early. I would get up about 6 and leave. And then my wife would go in and go to work at like 7:30 or 8. Well, my mother-in-law would come over and would babysit the kids. She would get them and then take them to her house. And then that way my wife didn't have to get them out. They could kind of stay here. The younger ones could. So they were all in our back master bathroom and they were getting ready. And the older kids and my wife were in there getting ready and getting, brushing their teeth, that sort of stuff. They hear what they think is the front door shut, and they hear some shuffling around, footsteps, movement that's in the kitchen. And then they think it is my mother-in-law. So they start talking to her. They can hear voices back, but they couldn't understand what was being said. So my wife comes in here to talk to her, and she wasn't here. So they called her and said, "Did you come over? Did you have to go back for something?" And she's like, "No, I hadn't even left the house yet." So that was the experience, I think, that kind of got my wife a little keyed up, because they all three swear that they heard, a woman's voice. They heard the footsteps. They heard, a loud noise in here they thought was the door shutting. And it was that kind of experiences that were going on. But, I think everybody kind of has some things like that make them go, ooh, we got, it's haunted. That's the ghost in the house. But we were still like, it's nothing. It's this. We're just thinking about it the wrong way. Well, then we had this episode, and this is the thing that I'm getting. You can't see it. I'm getting chill bumps just sitting here thinking about getting ready to tell you about it. So we were. It was one night, and I want to say it was like a Saturday, and the kids were wound up all day. They were just kind of uptight all day long. And as we moved into the evening, it was got to where everybody was just really wound up. We kept telling the kids to go to bed, and they were scared. And then we would get them to bed, and then one would come out. "I'm scared. I can't sleep." And then a few minutes later, we'd get them back to bed, and then the next one would come out. "I don't feel well." Just really just wound up. Everybody was. So it was probably close to midnight. We finally got everybody situated, and my wife and I had laid down in the bed, and we were reading. And we heard footsteps coming towards our bedroom. Now, it's a pretty large house, and as they were walking kind of through what we thought was coming in the dining room, I told my wife, I said, "Pretend like you're asleep. Maybe they'll go back to bed if they think we're asleep." So we quickly just kind of fell over and pretended like we were asleep, had our eyes closed, and we heard the footsteps, both of us, come through the living room, come through the kitchen, and into our bedroom, and then they stopped beside the bed. That's what we both remember. We heard the shuffle across the carpet, and as it got to the bed, it stopped. So we sat there probably 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, something like that, pretending like we were asleep. My daughter had when she was younger, she had this deal where she would come in, and if she wasn't feeling well or wanted to wake you up, she would just stand over the side of the bed and look and stare at you until you got a creepy vibe and would wake up or realize she was there. So that's what we both, when we talked about it later, that's what we both thought it was, is we thought it was Shelby coming in, and she was standing there waiting on Jamie to wake up because it was on her side of the bed. And as we sit there a second, I just kind of pulled the covers back, and I sat up and I said, "What do you want?" And about that same time, my wife kind of picked her head up and looked, and there was a pair of socks that came across the room and landed and bounced right in the bed. We could actually feel them hit the bed. Now, we had done laundry earlier in the day, and there was a laundry basket, probably, I'm going to say it's 6, 7, 8 feet from the side of the bed over to where there's a desk there. And Jamie had set the laundry basket over there, and it had like socks and underwear in it. Well, the socks, that's where everything was at. And as we did that, the socks came flying into the bed. Now, I can tell you that it instantly just basically scared the heck out of me. I'm like, I don't even know where this came from. Had it been just seeing the socks lay in the bed, or had it been just maybe what we thought was a footstep, it would be different. But we put all that together, the way the kids were wound up, they wouldn't go to bed, they were scared, just all this energy that was kind of in the house that day. And then to have those footsteps come up to the bed, and then the socks land in the bed, it really messed with my head for a while. And it was probably a couple of days later is when I contacted MPI, so Military Paranormal Investigations. That's the investigative group that I'm with. And that's where I finally joined up with MPI. But for the first couple of days afterwards, I mean, I was on the internet. I was searching. I was trying to find what the heck could cause this to happen. I thought, well, did we leave a pair of socks in the bed? And I don't think so. At the time, we had, a darker comforter. It was there, and there's a pair of white socks that was laying there. And Jamie is religious about making the bed. I'm pretty positive that they sat in the floor, and folded laundry as they were there. We had 6 of us in the house at the time, so you can imagine the mass of laundry that we had. And they were, I can't say that it was left in the bed. Had it just been socks laying in the bed, I could see that. But to physically see them flying from left to right and landing in the bed, which is where the footsteps were, where they came into the room. And it really changed my perspective. I still to this day can't say what it was, or I do believe that it was some sort of anomalous event that occurred. Since then we've had multiple occasions where Jamie and I have both seen. Just here a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we were in the kitchen, on each side of the kitchen, and a mist. This was in the middle of the summer. A heavy body mist, kind of swirled up in the middle of the kitchen, and then just, it went away right in front of us. This was when I was remodeling the bathroom the second time. As all this was going on, I was remodeling that, and then there's a wall here that this used to be windows in the porch. I enclosed the porch, and so we had done all of this work, and we were sitting here at the table, and this room that's here was turned into an office at the time. As my oldest son moved out, Jamie turned that into her work office, and then she was sitting there facing into that room, and me and Shelby were on this side. And as she looked up, it was literally like the Dan Aykroyd part in Ghostbusters whenever he drops his mouth in the cigarette thing there. She's eating, and she just and there was another mist that formed right behind me. And, I look back and I think, well, I kind of felt the chills. It could have just been because of my physiological response to watching her. But Shelby turned and looked just as she was doing that to see what she was looking at, and she seen the mist as well. We've investigated this house 3 separate occasions now, and then other than some of the flashlight activity, which I kind of discount on the surface, there's been nothing that we've caught. We've had no EVPs. We've had no types of major anomalous activity that's occurred during the investigation. Now, this room, the power comes in and the air conditioner's on the outside of that room. However, we've run every Gauss meter, the tri-field, everything that we can think of, we've done in that room. And it stays around less than 2 milligauss, which is really nothing that I don't think can cause major physiological effects to occur in multiple people across that. There's nothing that we found that would cause that. So I kind of thought that all the members of the team were thinking that I was crazy. However, Rob was here a couple weeks ago, and we were working on some videos and things, and I had gone outside to throw some stuff on the grill, and he sees a figure walk across the kitchen, and he's talking to it, and he's thinking that it's me. And about that time, I come in the back door, and he's like, "What? That wasn't you that was just in there?" He says, "I know that somebody just walked right there. I could physically see it." So he finally had an experience in the house. Now I think that Allison's had some weird feelings in here, but nothing again major that's going to be majorly documented. So anyway, I don't know what's going on. I know that it is the event that changed my perspective. Now since then, and I hope to share some more of these with you as an investigator, I've had quite a few other personal experiences and some things that were well documented that's occurred. But that particular instant, just me, my whole family, I was an outdoor guy. We hunted, we fished, we worked on cars. We did that kind of stuff. It's nothing that it wasn't something that was in our brain. We watched stuff on True TV, the crime dramas and things like that. It's not something that we watched a lot of, anything that was related to paranormal wise, really. I mean, you kind of get the social interaction from just stuff that's out there, but nothing that would have influenced our thinking on that. So as an average, just everyday person that had that experience happen to them, a lot of other people may have chalked that up to, oh, it was just this. And I think that's what happens a lot nowadays. But I think that if more people take note of that and maybe share those stories, maybe other people will, and maybe there'll be a pattern that arises out of that. Maybe there'll be something that we can use to document this better, just to have a little deal there. Because again, most people will laugh about it when you ask them about it in public. And I think that needs to change. It needs to get away from the dark. I felt like one night I came in the door up front, and as I walked around the car, I had what was like a shadow figure that kind of almost like it bum rushed me. It actually made me physically, verbally kind of yell and jump. I thought somebody was on top of me. That's the only thing that I've had that was maybe somewhat dark. But other than that, the things that's happened here, I don't think it's anything negative. I don't think it's anything along those lines. And I don't think that's what happens in 99% of the cases out there. So I think if we can destigmatize this, where people will tell their stories, maybe we'll get a little more insight as to what's going on once it becomes a little more okay to talk about it, if you will. So if you have a story that you want to share with me, I want to put all these on the blog. I'm going to try to get these released on the podcast as well. And if you have a story you want to share, if it's mundane, if it's something small, let me know. I can compile those in a multiple episode deal. If you have a story you want to share, please let me know, and we'll get that out there. I don't have to use your name. We can keep it anonymous. I know that people are still a little weird about that. So again, that's what I hope to change. The more of these stories get out there, the more we talk about it, then the more maybe it'll be okay. So again, make sure you follow us on undiscoveredorigins.com, all of our social media accounts, like and subscribe to this video, and I'm going to try my best to get out some more content. We're still sitting here in the middle of the self-quarantine phase of the 2020 epidemic, so I think that as the next couple of weeks roll on, we're probably going to be in our houses a little more, so maybe I'll have some more time, you'll have some more time to share your stories. So again, like, subscribe, follow us. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. And we'll see you next time.